We got a lot of reports to cover, friends. We have the DoD issuing a major alert about the solar storms. We have updates on what's going on with the northern lights, where they've been seen, the aurora borealis. We got basically the director of the Space Weather Prediction Center chiming in. We got a whole bunch of stuff, friends. We're not going to give you any hysterics here. We're going to tell you what it is, and it looks like things are holding up for now. But I want you to be aware of what happened last time we had a G5, which was in 2003. That was the last time we've had a G5 solar event, and a few things broke here and there. So we do want you to be aware of those things, and we'll give you updates on what's happening so far. This continues on through tomorrow afternoon at the shortest, right? So there are continued things coming. We don't know the strength of these things until they kind of hit us. So we're mapping it out as it goes. It did hit pretty hard last night, and then it kind of backed off a little bit. So it back into G4 territory, but we may get another burst here over the next 12 to 24 hours. So let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we cover the facts here, keep you updated on what's going on out there without the fluff and without all the talk, right? All right, so the DoD, Department of Defense, has issued an alert that actually got leaked to Twitter. This is alert, Eastern region, possible interruptions, power, GPS, and then vehicle like computer systems and internet. This was issued by KZ, Eastern Region Emergency Management Action Officer. Now, this was the one that was leaked. There probably were these issued across the board with all commands, but that just gives you an idea that the Department of Defense is tracking this and did alert its soldiers to the potential for issues over the past 24 hours. The Clinton Wallace, director of the Space Weather Prediction Center for the NOAA, which stands for something. It's a National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration or something like that. He said this: "This is an unusual and potentially historic event." And like I said, this has hit a G5 level. That's the highest solar storm categories, but then of course there's all sorts of strengths and everything of G5s. So it could be a very bad G5, or it could be like a not so bad G5. So what we saw was in 2003, when the last one of these things happened, we had transformers blow up in South Africa. So they lost some transformers because their grid got a little overwhelmed. Also, there were power outages in Sweden. This was back in 2003 when they had a similar solar storm. So now this has been a train of CMEs. So we've had now 7 have been detected in a row hitting us. And so it's just like a train of them, one after the next, after the next, after the next. And this is basically one big sunspot that's just spitting stuff at us. And so, is the next wave going to be worse? Is the next wave going to be, less? But we have had basically most shortwave radio across the world has been basically made so that it's not working. We have that, so long-range radio communications not working. Now, let's get an update from Elon Musk. And I know you're like, why are we talking about Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk operates about 60% of the active satellites in orbit. So, he's kind of an important person to be listening to. So he updated on the Starlink satellites that they are holding up so far. Now they have almost 6,000 satellites up. That's about 60% of all active satellites up in orbit right now. So now we are hearing out there that other satellites are having issues with getting pushed out of orientation, so they're not pointing the right way. And if they're not pointing the right way, they can't receive communications, and they can't do what they're supposed to do, because most of the time satellites are pointed at the Earth or or pointed at what they're supposed to be pointed at. And if they get turned around, they have maneuvering jets and everything like that. So it's more of a nuisance as long as they have enough fuel to eventually kind of orient themselves back. But also we have other satellites getting pushed out of orbit. So they're not being pushed out of orbit and like they're going to crash, but they're pushed out of where they're supposed to be. So they're supposed to be here, but now they're over here. And it's just, that's solar storms do this. They push satellites around, and that can mess up things like GPS. Now we are hearing reports out there of GPS outages. So friends, particularly over the next 24 to 48 hours, if your GPS says something weird or something stupid, don't believe it, right? I mean, it could say something off. If it's locking onto a satellite that's supposed to be in a certain point and that satellite has been moved, that can affect the results of your information getting from GPS. And be aware that it's not just your car GPS, but a lot of functions on your phones are using GPS these days. So be aware that that could be different. Especially if your phone only locks on to like 3 or 4 satellites, as opposed to usually it tries to get like 8 to 10 satellites to lock onto. If it has if it has a clear view of the sky, it usually can lock onto a bunch of satellites. But if it's only locking onto a couple of them and they're out of place, that could dramatically affect your results and such. So the Northern Lights were seen as far south as the Gulf Coast. Reports of people in southern Mississippi, people in Florida seeing the Northern Lights. That is absolutely insane. I don't even know when the last time that has happened. So, I mean, you can know that that is a sign and a wonder in the skies above. That is an unusual event. Now, I'm going to go back to the solar eclipse, right? I'm not saying that the solar eclipse was linked to anything necessarily, and I said that all along. I said, some people are going to say that this is a, kind of a sign or some kind of communication from God to us, a warning. And I said, maybe, but I mean, we can't connect it directly to anything. But the fact that we had that, and then now we have this solar storm that is a very unusual event, turning the sky red. It echoes some Bible passages, doesn't it? And I wonder if that is potentially maybe a warning to us that with all the insane things happening in the United States right now, I wonder if that is supposed to be a warning to us that we need to change our ways, that the direction we're going in, the insanity, needs to stop. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. And as a pastor, I do not appreciate people linking signs or stuff like that and going, I know what this means. It means this. That's a good mark of a false prophet right there. But there's something to be said for potentially God or the universe. If you don't believe in God, some people are also attributing meaning to this for other things. So, but what do you guys think about that? Are we supposed to be taking this as a warning, maybe? All right, so we don't have any significant power grid impacts. Some people are pointing to the outages in northern Florida as related or something like that, and it's not. There was a storm down there, and it did knock out a bunch of trees and knocked out a bunch of stuff. So it was a storm, a on-the-ground storm, not a solar storm, that caused those outages in northern Florida. So that is kind of the latest that we have for you. Watch out for those GPS outages. Also, if you're a ham radio, you're already probably quite well aware of what's going on with that for that. And then be aware that this is not the solar maximum. So we have these solar cycles that happen, and this is not the maximum of this. The sun starts spitting out a lot more CMEs, coronal mass ejections. It starts acting up a lot more solar storms. And it kind of goes in a cycle. And the thing is that this cycle is not supposed to peak until next year. So it's probably going to continue to get more intense. Now, a solar storm or coronal mass ejection happens. Most of the time, it's not pointed at the Earth. So it's kind of like it's a game of the lottery, right? I mean, it usually blows up and shoots out into empty space. But occasionally, like this time, it happened to be oriented towards Earth, and it sent out a stream that went on a collision course with Earth. So we're going to have a lot more of these solar storms, and it's kind of luck of the draw, right? I mean, if it just happens to be aimed towards us, then we get an impact from it. This is, like we said, the biggest one we've had in 21 years since 2003. So big news out there, but it's definitely not the biggest one we've seen. We've seen the Carrington event. That was back in the 1800s, and it fried up power lines, telegraph lines. They didn't have power lines back then. They had telegraph lines, right? And so those telegraph lines got fried. They actually burned up on the poles. So that was a much stronger event than what we've seen here by far. And if we see that type of event again, estimates are that we would be looking at the collapse of power grids on the side of the planet that's facing the sun when it hits. So could that happen today? Well, let's just say it's not impossible, but it doesn't look like that. The intensity seems to be, severe, but not insane. So we probably won't be seeing that in the next 24 hours, but if you have your Faraday cages, if you have things that you're keeping your electronics in, keep those electronics in those cages, keep them in the trash cans. Make sure that you are taking this storm seriously. This is the type of event that you'd want to be protecting your stuff from. And so definitely have that working, and keep watching the skies. If you missed this, the Northern Lights last night, check them out tonight. You should be able to see them again. Maybe not quite as far south as Florida again, but in a lot of North America, you probably will be able to see them again tonight. And maybe down on the Gulf Coast again, possible. It could happen. All right, friends, that's the update on what we got going on with the solar space weather. That's the non-hysterical version of it all. But we do have the question of, if this is still ramping up, if we're going to see more of this as the next year goes by, we need to, if you didn't have your stuff in Faraday cages, if you didn't have emergency electronics set aside, protected, you can make Faraday cages as simply as aluminum foil. So what you do is take your electronics, wrap them up in some sort of fabric, some non-conductive fabric, and then you wrap it up like a present in aluminum foil. Make sure all of the edges, that there's no gaps in the aluminum foil. You can tape it together, but make sure that all the aluminum foil is touching each other and there's no gaps. Then you put another layer of fabric, and then you can put aluminum foil again. Make sure again that there's no gaps in it. You can use metal trash cans. Make sure that whatever you're trying to protect is not touching the wall of the trash can. It's best to have multiple layers of conductive material with insulator, and then another layer of conductive material, and then insulator, and then whatever you're trying to protect. So that's why we talk about having that first layer and aluminum foil or whatever, and then putting it inside the metal trash can, making sure that the layers don't touch each other, so that you have either an air gap or you have an insulator between the two conductive layers that will allow the magnetic induced current on the metal not to pass right on through. If it passes right on through, then it doesn't do any good whatsoever. It actually turns into like one big antenna. So don't do that. That actually makes things worse, right? So if you just take your cell phone or whatever and you wrap it up in aluminum foil, if it's touching that aluminum foil, you've actually made things worse. So don't do that, okay? Make sure there's insulator between whatever you're protecting and the metal layer, and then try to put another insulator and then another metal layer if possible. Try to have 2 layers if possible. 3 layers are even better. but a really good layer is not as good as having 2 decent layers, okay? That's your crash course on Faraday cages. Go type it into Google. There's a bunch of people who will show you how to do the trash cans, how to do aluminum foil, how to do all those things properly. Make sure you do it properly if you're going to do it at all. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of The Poplar Report, out.